Hi, I'm Altaf and I'll be presenting API security, a demo and recommendation today using this presentation. What we'll be covering would be an introduction on web API security, some good recommendations for a better API security implementation, and a live API demo. API security basically ensures authenticating and authorizing programs and users invoking an API. The various methods of authentication and authorization would include static strings, which are basically sending the username and password with the request. Some include dynamic tokens, just like the JSON Web Token, where these tokens are time-based tokens for authenticating services. User delegated tokens, basically these tokens are granted based on users authentication, something like the OAuth 2.0 does, where the tokens are sent from an authentication server. We have a set of policies which define how an API can be invoked, something like the alpha and XML. Coming to how JSON Web Tokens, JWT, are implemented, are used in API security. JWTs are basically compact and self-contained way of transferring information securely between the requesting parties in the form of some kind of a JSON object. These are basically have some kind of expiration time which we define, so that once the token is generated, it stays alive for a particular duration of time, and during that period of time, the person who bears that token can access the resources. Basically, the typical structure of a JSON Web Token looks like something like this, where this part represents the header section, which holds a type and algorithm of the token creation. The middle part represents a payload, which is basically the data that is required to verify the request, something like the name, the gender, email, something which is pre pre present within the claims that we use normally for creating the API security authentication. Normally, we do not keep any sensitive data within the payload, and the signature part, which is an encrypted string encrypted using the secret key. We'll have a implementation of the JWT done while we take a look at the demo. Before we go into the demo, few recommendations here. So OAuth 2.0. OAuth 2.0 is essentially a framework for authorizing to grant access to a set of resources, or something like providing permissions to the user. This is basically this basically identifies the person personal account of the user to provide permissions. They normally provide some kind of access tokens which are forwarded to the authentication server, and if the authentication server accepts the authorization is provided, and the user can access the resources attributed to him. OpenID is yet another protocol basically for authentication. This uses the JWT tokens for authentication, and until the token remains alive, the access to the sites are maintained. Basically, if we consider both the recommendations of 2.0 and OpenID, the one which is OAuth 2.0 is basically for authorization, which is a framework, and OpenID is for the authentication protocol. So basically, to implement an API security, we have something like the OpenID Connect, which implements both the authorization framework of OpenID, which is implemented or wrapped upon by the OpenID authentication protocol. Now we'll have a look at the demo. Here I have set up a demo where we have a sample student data. And I have the get all functionality where when we're invoking the students control from the API, we would be getting the entire set, and the get one by ID would provide us only the detail of the particular ID that we are um, looking for. Now we'll just run it and we'll switch to Postman. And once we're running, since we do not have the authorization right now, this shows up. So we go to Postman. So this was when I was testing. I had been given a previous Bearer token. Since it has expired, we have a 401 authorization. So initially what we do is we can go to API auth token, which is a post method. And I have created here a basic authorization to create um, the bearer token. So once these are satisfied, controller. So once these are checked, when the basic authorization is checked, we go into the secret key, which is used to create the JWT security token, and it is returned. So when we run this, we send the post request. The JWT bearer token is created. Now we have to pass the JWT bearer token um, for yeah and if we send it now, which is a previous uh, bearer token, so it doesn't give, we provide the new token and we get the result. So, and this is the get all functionality. If we provide something like the ID with it, we get each one, and if we give another ID, we get the sixth value. So basically this is how the API works. Now into the program where we are just providing the basic authorization. Here the basic authorization checks for the basic credentials, and if it is, this is a hard coding where we'll have to keep this in the launch settings um, or the config file, or maybe it is in future we could even check it from the database. So once this is checked, we go into the token generation where we require the signing credential, where the signing credential requires a key and an algorithm. Here we have used the HMAC SHA-256 algorithm, and the key is basically this one which I have used here. Set official audience and an expiration time of 1 minute I have set here, and once this is done, the return token string which we already saw was generated. Once this is done, um, we have used the token parameter checker here where token validation parameters is being checked, where an authentication service would check for the um, JWT pair, and then it authenticates the request, and thus we get the results out there. So that is it from my part. These are the few references that I have used to create this presentation and recommendation. That's it. Thank you.